And the Suns, who at one point were the favorite to win the West because they acquired Kevin Durant, are now going to be in a... So this video might be pretty premature like the last time I made a bad video about the Suns. Now yes, I am very aware that Kevin Durant has not been playing for the past couple weeks as he had a pretty ridiculous injury that I've never seen before. And yes, I'm also aware of the fact that DeAndre Ayton has missed the past couple games as well. We all know that. And injuries, they've definitely played a factor for the Suns. And honestly, not just the Suns, it seems like the entire NBA, we've had so many injuries. But it comes to a point where you can't just blame injuries and things start to look wrong for your team. And for the Suns, there's a chance that they might have to start panicking. These past 6-7 games that Kevin Durant has missed, the Phoenix Suns have just not looked the same. And it's not even just Kevin Durant and DeAndre Ayton who's only missed 2 of those games, but I'm starting to notice problems within the team that could honestly affect them in the playoffs. Now, I know some Suns fans are going to comment on this video saying, oh, this is too premature, watch what happened last time. Oh, and also Kevin Durant's going to be back in about a week, which I seriously hope he is back in a week, even though there was a very interesting report that said something along the lines of Kevin Durant could play now if he wanted to, but they're trying to be cautious about it. I saw someone on Suns Twitter say this, I believe it was Coach Evan, but he said, keep being extra cautious and there won't be any more games to be cautious for. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this stuck in my head for like the entire day. I couldn't stop thinking about this quote. Because this season, if you've been paying attention to the standings throughout the whole entire year, you could tell that in the West, the like 4 to 10 seed is so close right now. Really, no team is safe making it into the playoffs or even the play-in at this point. They call it the Wild Wild West for a reason, and Phoenix is starting to fall down in the ranks. Because they're being cautious with Kevin Durant and DeAndre Ayton, I've seen some people say, oh, they should do the same with Book and Chris Paul. But no, we should not do that whatsoever. Now, what I'm about to say might be something crazy as hell, but Phoenix, they're only 3 games above the 12th seed. The Suns cannot afford to lose games they absolutely should be winning. For example, they just lost to the Lakers, and I know some people are going to bring up the free throw controversy, but they made multiple mistakes. I know we could talk about the free throw disparity and Scott Foster this and Scott Foster that, but at the end of the day, they were within 1, I believe, in the 4th. And I know the Lakers are playing way better than they were to start off the year, but still, I feel like this was a game that Phoenix still should have won. Losing to the Thunder by 4, again, I'm not trying to disrespect OKC. I've been saying this entire year, OKC is going to break out eventually as a team. Now, did I think it was going to be this year? Well, no. But in my defense, I did not think Jalen Williams was going to play like the possible rookie of the year. Not to do a little bit of fear mongering, but Chet Holmgren, he hasn't played a single game this year. Imagine if he came back next year and dominates. The point I'm trying to make is that they lost to OKC by 4, and there were multiple examples during the game where I felt like they should have won. Yes, while they beat the Magic by 3, there's no way that game should have been that close. The fact that they only won that game because of a Josh Okogie block is impressive to me. Now, even the couple of games that they have won during this time, they just do not look the same, and there's a couple things that I need to point out. I know this is a Booker segment, but if you thought I was going to drag Devin Booker, I'm not doing such thing. I don't know what it is about March and Devin Booker, but this man just loves to go off in March. It is insane. And this year, he's doing just that. During the month of March this year, Devin Booker has averaged 34, 5, and 4. Not to mention, he's also had only 2 games under 30 points. The reason why I'm even bringing up Booker, though, is because it seems like in every single game, this man needs to drop like 30 plus points for the Suns to have a fighting chance. I've watched every single game during this time, and the one consistent thing I can tell you is that this man Devin Booker has been nothing but great. And this leads me back to the fact that when Phoenix was struggling during this year, I noticed that Booker was also doing pretty well. Now, was he doing this well? No, but to be fair, he's having stats like he could be the MVP. I know I'm not pushing that narrative again, but still. I noticed that Booker is the only one that has been very competent during this time ever since Kevin Durant's been missing. And I don't care how good of a team you are, you cannot rely on one player and expect to win all these games. A friend NBA Nerd made a video similar to this, but about the Warriors, and he brought up the same point, but about Steph Curry. I know this might be very hard to believe, but Steph Curry is way better than Devin Booker. And if even Steph Curry cannot carry a team by himself, what makes you think Booker can? I'm going to transition into the bench for a sec, because this is something that we need to figure out as a team. I know I kind of said it like I'm actually on the team, but you guys know what I'm trying to say. I was a very big fan of this rotation until some of the moves that Monty Williams made, and at this point, I don't even know who's playing or when they're playing. Also, the lineups that Monty Williams is running are very questionable, and I love Monty, but it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, for example, Darius Bazley, he's not gotten that many minutes. Also, a guy like Ish Wainwright, I love Ish Wainwright, but why is this man playing over 20 minutes per game lately? It just doesn't make sense. Also, the inconsistency with guys like Terrence Ross and Cameron Payne, it's just mind-boggling to me. So I've noticed a lot of people pointing this out, but during late parts in the game, I've noticed that Monty will keep in the bench players when it comes comes to crunch time, and then within like a couple minutes left, he'll finally put the starters back in. I think a great example of this is in the game versus OKC, where, by the way, Devin Booker had 46 and they didn't win. I just want to say that. Okay, now I need someone to answer this question for me, and this can be a segment on its own. What the hell is Chris Paul gonna be like in the playoffs? The thing with Chris is, I know randomly I'm gonna check the box score and this man's gonna have like 15 assists but like 7 points, but my biggest issue is the fact that this man will not be aggressive, and I don't understand why. It's not like he can't shoot. He's been very consistent this year, especially when it comes to his mid-range jumper, which is basically his bread and butter. And yet I'll see multiple pick and roll opportunities where he's just gonna try to make the pass to someone else, or he's gonna completely avoid being in the play. Now, I know that Chris Paul cannot do this mid-range jumper every single play, despite him being one of the best players when it comes to getting to a shot. I've seen some people talk about this and they'll go back to the Denver Nuggets series and be like, oh, I wonder why he did it versus them, but he couldn't do it versus other teams. Now, to be fair, this is probably because the Denver Nuggets played terrible drop coverage. Like, the defense that the Nuggets were running was just not good, and I know that was a couple years ago, and maybe they've improved a little bit, even though me personally, I don't think they have whatsoever. In fact, I think they've gotten worse. But I'm sorry, Chris Paul cannot be in a situation where he can be aggressive versus certain teams and not aggressive versus others, because the list of teams that he quote-unquote cannot be aggressive against would be really big. So as much as I love Chris Paul as a facilitator, a guy who's a great playmaker, I want to see this guy being more aggressive. I know he's not the best three-point shooter, he's not doing that well this year, but I would seriously like to see Chris Paul being a little bit more aggressive on the mid-range game, maybe even driving more. In fact, speaking of driving more, this is going to transition me into my next point. There's been a conversation throughout the league about the referees this year, and I'm not going to lie, they've been fucking terrible. When Fred VanVleet went off on Ben Taylor, I was shocked because I thought this man was about to get like a 20-game suspension or something. But tell me why it turns out that Ben Taylor has actually started to get demoted from some of his roles. And I like this because I think it shows the NBA is trying to do well, but maybe this is just like a PR move and they'll move him back later. I'm not entirely sure. I know it seems like every other day Scott Foster makes a big ass mistake, and trust me, you guys let me know. I mean, I was one of the only few people on NBA YouTube who was actually covering this and did actual investigative work to find out, hey, this guy should be investigated. But to be fair, you could have easily chalked it up to me just being a Suns fan. But I'm sorry, when D'Lo says on national television that Scott Foster is reffing, you know something's up. Like, this man's not even trying to hide it, and I'm not gonna lie, if I could take advantage of that, I definitely would as a player. Now, it wasn't just that Lakers game. I've seen multiple games this year where the other team shot way more free throws compared to the Suns. Like, the free throw disparity that I've seen this year is insane, and I think something needs to be talked about. For example, the Lakers, they had a 46-20 free throw disparity versus the Suns. The OKC Thunder, they had a 36-24. In a game versus the Milwaukee Bucks, the Suns had 16 free throws. The Bucks, they had 37, but Giannis by himself had 24, meaning that he had 33% more free throws by himself compared to the Suns. I'm not going to try to justify it for every single loss that Phoenix has had because there's multiple things you can point out, but I'm sorry, this is definitely something that needs to be addressed, and it seems like the NBA has been looking into it recently. It's making headlines and the referees are not looking good, so you know something is definitely about to go down at the refereeing office. Now, I think we need to talk about Phoenix going into the playoffs because the playoffs, they're not that far away. We are like 20 days away from the play-in and things are starting to get interesting. And Phoenix, they do not look playoff ready whatsoever, but in their defense, there are some positives coming their way. For example, I expect DeAndre Ayton to return to the lineup in a couple games. Also, Kevin Durant, he's supposed to be reevaluated in about a week, and I expect that he's going to be able to play. Also, I truly do believe that Phoenix is going to start locking down and they're going to start to get ready into playoff form. Tonight, the Suns are playing the Kings, and honestly, I see the Suns winning this game. From what I know, I don't expect Kevin Durant and DeAndre Ayton to play in this game, and the reason why I'm confident they could win is because if they do not win, then their seeding is going to start going down. And the Suns, who at one point were the favorite to win the West because they acquired Kevin Durant, are now going to be in a situation where they're not guaranteed in the playoffs. They are 2 games away from being in a play-in situation, which would be the 7th seed. This team has looked flat recently, and I haven't understood it, but I think I know what it is. The Suns are now reliant on Kevin Durant, and they don't know how to win without him. See, I thought Phoenix was guaranteed to win a title because when they didn't have Kevin Durant, I was like, hey, this team is pretty reliant without him. I mean, worst case scenario, he gets injured, but they'll be okay. But truth be told, if Kevin Durant misses like a couple games in the playoffs, it's Joe over for this team. And if the season was to end today, they'd be playing the Los Angeles Clippers. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how confident I am in this team. I can't promise you they're gonna come out the first round, at best the second. Hopefully Phoenix proves me wrong, because the last time I said this, they went on a crazy streak and they ended up getting Kevin Durant. But as a diehard Suns fan, I'm not moved by this team right now. And there are multiple teams that I see in the West right now that are better than the Suns, and I'm sorry, but this is not a good look for them. But who knows, maybe I'm wrong, but Phoenix, I need y'all to prove me wrong.